Hello class, I'm going to show you some fun techniques on how to add font to your historic images. So what I usually do when I have my historic images or images of any kind, I'll take kind of save them to the desktop, and I can just take and drag them into Photoshop if it's down here, and then it'll just open up. And so that's kind of a great way to get images into Adobe Photoshop really fast and easy. Um, so once you have it open, you'll notice in the new Photoshop, they have this little tab that you can kind of lock somewhere or move around. And this is your little shortcut to all these different tools. Um, like if you click on the screen, it will change according to what tool you have picked. Like if I have the text tool picked, in this case, it'll switch over to the text tool. So right here you have, within this tool, you get to choose what kind of font you want. You can go through all these different fonts, and it gives you a little, you can kind of see how it changes as you scroll through them, little example of them. This is also where if you've added any fun fonts to your computer, it'll live in here. You can have this crazy fonts or whatever. I'm going to stick with Futura, and you'll notice too that immediately it's set to show your font in Latin, and it shows you the example in Latin. So you can select this by just scrolling over it and dragging and kind of highlighting it, or you can go Command A, and which is basically select all. And if you have a bunch of font, that'll just select the entire thing, and you can change the font that way. And once you have that, I'm just going to paste in what I wrote previously, and you can see it's got some size already associated with it. And I want to show you really quickly, you can either use the drop-down menu to adjust size, you can type into it to adjust the size by highlighting it and typing one, whatever number and hitting return, it'll change. Or one really cool thing you can do is if you get where the little arrows are left and right, it says set font size. And if you drag one way or the other, it kind of adjusts your font size. So that's a kind of nice way to kind of aesthetically change the size while looking at it. Anyway, once you get the font size where you want it, click on this move tool, and you can kind of move it to where you want it to go. And if you notice these little guides, these purple kind of bright, kind of pinkish purple guides come up, and they'll tell you how the font or whatever image you're in have going on, how it lines up with the overall picture. And when that little pink one comes in the center, that's saying that the font or whatever is centered. And so that's a really neat tool if you want to just quick and easily center stuff. There's some different ways you can adjust your font. One way is to go over here to your font and click on this little FX on the bottom, which stands for effects. And you can add just a simple drop shadow, and that really makes the font come out a lot clearer. You can see it a lot better. You can adjust the blend mode of that drop shadow to all these different things. If you click on it, darken is similar to multiply. It just darkens whatever's around it will get darkened. And that's what multiply does too. It just multiplies it. If you did screen, whatever's around it gets lighter. So you can kind of adjust that too. And in this case, because it's the drop shadow, it's going to get lighter only in whatever area you set it as. You can change the angle of your drop shadow by adjusting the angle. You can adjust the distance and the spread and all those goodies. And I recommend kind of playing around with that and taking a look at how it comes forward and what you want to do. So that's one way. You can add another effect. So you could have the drop shadow, and you can add an even additional effect, a stroke. And you can change the opacity of that stroke to make it really tight and clear or less. So part of this is just your artistic creativity and what you think works with your image. And so when you're cool with that, you say, okay. And there's one other trick I want to show you in terms of adjusting your font and making it stand out. is that if you drag this background and duplicate it by dragging it to the plus sign, I'm going to move this over just a little bit so you can see it better. That means that you won't be, if you're clicked on the copy, you won't be affecting the background down here. So if you make some kind of error or you don't like it, you can change it back. Then you can go to this tool over here, which is, I call it the dodge tool, but it's these three tools here. You got the dodge, the burn, and the sponge. The dodge tool will make everything kind of similar to a photograph. It just blocks out the light, so it makes everything lighter. The burn tool basically makes everything darker. It's like you've exposed it longer. So one thing you can do if you click on the thing is you can adjust the size of your brush by clicking on these brackets on your keyboard. And so if you click on the right bracket, it makes it really big, and you click on the left bracket, it gets smaller. So that's one really good trick to adjust your brush size. And you kind of want to have a pretty decent brush size. And up here, if you go to highlights, it will just darken in the highlights. You can see how that kind of changed how the font stood out from the background. So you can kind of just adjust the highlights, which will make it less competition with the font being white. And I can also change my exposure if I want to be more subtle about how I darken it. And each time I go through that, it's going to darken it more, those highlights. So if I decide that still I want it to stand out more, maybe I'll go in and kind of darken some of the midtones creatively where I want those letters to really show up. And I can change the exposure even less, so it's like just barely doing anything. And when I like how that looks, I can then, you should always save it. And then since I've already saved it, it won't go to the thing. But if I go to File, Export for the assignment, you're going to need to save it as a JPEG or a PNG. So the quick way is just quick export as a PNG. But if you want to get more technical, export as, and it'll take you to this page where you can select what kind of file you want it to export as. In this case, I'll leave it as a JPEG, and what size you want your image to be. For these assignments, I would recommend trying to keep one width about 1,000, maybe 1,200 if you want a little more resolution. And this is all set good, so we're good there. It's going to be a little smaller than what we've been working with. And then you just hit export, and it will give you the option to change the name, but you see the little .jpeg after. So then you just hit save, and when you've got it in your desktop or your folder, your class folder, you'll just upload it to the assignment page with the insert image or upload image thing, and you can just sometimes just drag it in, and that's it. You will have the ability to throw some text in here and have fun with it. Think about what you're trying to talk about with the text and how it changes. Like in this case, all of a sudden it's this fantastical thing of turtle origin story. But whatever you choose to do with this text, it can be funny, it can be serious, it can be just absurd, or incongruous, or whatever you want it to be. But have fun with it, and it doesn't have to be centered. It can, you can use crazy font. You can, however you want to play with it. But I'm really curious to see how you'll take this and what you'll do with these images and how it transforms the images. So I'll talk to you soon. Bye.